Good afternoon and welcome to the Paramount City Council Chambers. This is a special notice that pursuant to Executive Order N-29-20 executed by the Governor of California on March 17, 2020, and as a response to mitigating the spread of coronavirus known as COVID-19, the meeting of the City Council scheduled for today, Tuesday, April 20th, 2021 at 5 p.m. will allow members of the public to participate and to address the City Council during the open session of the meeting via live stream and or teleconference only. And with that, I will introduce now Mayor Brenda Olmos to handle the introduction of our meeting. Mayor
Thank
Olmos.
you, John, and good evening, staff, and good evening, residents that are watching us tonight on YouTube. I would like to go ahead and call to order our April 20th Paramount City Council meeting. Can I get a roll call of council members, please?
Yes, ma'am. Councilmember Aguayo.
Here.
Councilmember Guillen. Councilmember Lemons. Vice Mayor Cuellar Stallings.
Here.
Mayor Olmos.
Here. Can I please get a motion to excuse Councilmember Guillen, please?
So second.
I have a motion by Lemon, second by Claire Stallings. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo.
Yes.
Councilmember Guillen. Councilmember Lemons. Vice Mayor Cuellar Stallings.
Yes.
Mayor Olmos.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
No worries. All right, so we'll move on to City Council public comment updates.
Yes, Madam Mayor, we have a couple of follow-up comments from the April 6, 2021 City Council meeting. And the first was from resident Mr. Gerald Serta. And Mr. Serta had two requests. The first one was he would like more information regarding the incident where a body was discovered inside the LA River adjacent to Dills Park. As a follow-up to this, the incident involving a deceased individual inside the LA River adjacent to Dills Park that occurred on March 29th is still under investigation by the Sheriff's Department, and details cannot be released by us at this time. Mr. Serta's second request was that the city add lighting at Dills Park and work with other agencies to explore adding lighting on the bridges over the LA River adjacent to Dills Park. And our action or follow-up on that is that the Public Works Department will assess the lighting configuration at Dills and the adjacent bridge to determine if additional lighting is feasible. Staff has contacted Mr. Serta to inform him of our progress on this assessment. Our next speaker at the April 6th meeting was Ms. Nina Juhas, and Ms. Nina Juhas claims that the city is targeting her over parking citations. If you may recall that at the April 6th meeting, Public Safety Director Adriana Lopez mentioned that she had spoke with Ms. Juhas on multiple occasions regarding her concerns of this issue. Staff explained to Ms. Juhas and reinforced that the overall parking enforcement calls in her neighborhood have increased dramatically this year. As a follow-up to that, too, the staff sent a letter to all residents in that neighborhood educating them on parking etiquette and also the city's parking laws. And that concludes the City Council public comment updates for April 6, 2021.
Thank you, John. So we'll go ahead and move over to public comments.
Yes, Madam Mayor, we have 3 oral public comments for general and 2 oral public comments for 2 different items, as well as an email for another item. So those items are 2, 4, and 10. Items 2, 4, and 10. We have public comments for those. Meanwhile, though, on general public comments, which is the item we're on right now, we have 3. So I'll turn it over to our Assistant City Manager, Andrew Villalpando, who will handle this. Andrew?
Good evening. This is the City of Paramount calling for Alejandro Yanez.
This is Alejandro.
Hi, Mr. Yanez. You're being broadcast live to the City Council. You'll be given 3 minutes for your public comments, which will begin now.
All right. Good afternoon. I had to find a spot to park real quick. Good afternoon. So I'm still after my handball court. It's not just for me. There's a lot of people that's still interested in handball. But I wanted to point out something that the person who wrote up the summary for the handball courts wrote that it was a false that the bathroom wasn't open during that time. I have pictures to show that that bathroom, in fact, was open whoever wrote the summary, in fact, is lying about that. That bathroom's been open, I don't know how long if I've been living in the city. Another thing I wanted to point out about that summary was one of the council members brought up, how do you expect to pay for the recreation to build those handball courts? That was the question that was brought up. And my response has always been in the last 10 years, use the money that you use for senior citizens for them to get the recreation. Use the money for the youth to get the recreation. We're just as equal as anybody else in the city and have rights to recreation. You know, so much of what the person that wrote up the summary brought up, you know, that in Long Beach where that person lives, they have handball courts, right? So why is that person pushing for us to go play in another city, but we live here, and it's something that the city's always talking about, shop here, work here, spend here, but yet you want us to go to another city to play? I don't think that's right. I think it's only fair that we get our handball courts back. And now, the Roosevelt courts, I've stated it before, we've never wanted to play at Roosevelt courts. We don't think that's the right place for us to play. You know, there's vulgar language that goes on there. I'm not shy about any of the negativities that you have brought up. I'm not shy about any of it. I'm not trying to hide it. You know, but at the same time, we still have a right to have recreation somewhere, and I don't think Roosevelt is the right place. And I've stated that from the gate. You know, we have a right to recreation. You should think about all the years that you didn't spend any money for adults. You know, and the point about me bringing up adult recreation over and over again was just to prove to the fact that nobody else was interested in adult recreation. But the fact when we brought up our handball courts, I had to use the lack of adult recreation as a means to bring attention to it. But no other adult is asking for recreation, and yet you still tore down the only recreation that we had.
Mr. Yanez, you have 20 seconds left.
Mr. Yanez, did we lose him?
Mr. Yanez, are you there?
Okay, all right. Well, thank you for your comments, Mr. Yanez. You know, quick question before we go to the next caller. Has the county, do we have any recollection of when they're going to be able to open up sports so we can open up the reservations for the handball courts at Roosevelt?
Mr. Johnson can answer.
We can do that now.
Okay.
We just have to get it posted correctly.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Dave. All right, we'll move on to the next comment.
Hello?
Good evening. This is the City of Paramount calling for Alfredo Banuelos. Hi, Mr. Banuelos.
Hello?
We're calling regarding your request for public comment. You're being broadcast live to the City Council. You'll have 3 minutes on the clock, which will begin now.
Thank you. Good evening to everyone listening. My name is Alfredo Banuelos, and for the last year, I've had the privilege of serving Paramount residents as the Commissioner of Public Works. This month of April marks the 1-year anniversary of my appointment, and I thank the current council for that. I assure you and the public that I've tried to do my best. However, it has been a learning experience, and I recognize my own shortcomings. That being said, commissioners are extremely ill-prepared. We have no bylaws, no codes of ethics, and no training whatsoever, and that's no accident in my belief. What we do have, however, are recently established rules of decorum that, in my opinion, infringe upon our First Amendment rights. And therefore, I ask the city to revisit the topic and set a higher standard for the preparation of public officials, executives, and staff without double standards and primarily without attempting to censor free speech for all. In the past couple of meetings, I've heard several people accuse the city of targeting them for speaking out against what city management is doing. This is extremely shameful, disgraceful, and unacceptable. I urge the public to continue to come forward and continue to share your stories of injustice, for only then will things begin to change. I empathize with the feelings of retaliation and injustice in the city. I, too, have fallen victim. I've actually lost vehicles thanks to the city and its towing buddies. Most recently, I shared the story of my neighborhood's parking struggle for an online news publication by the name of political-life.com. And now, immediately after, my commission's terms of office are cut short. For the last year, and while serving on the Public Works Commission, I consistently insisted on the revival of the Parking Committee. As the chairperson, I myself was supposed to form part of the board, yet every time I urged the city manager, John Moreno, he dismissed my petitions on the basis of the pandemic not allowing for in-person meetings, while every other meeting in the city was still being conducted remotely. This is completely unacceptable, Mr. Moreno, and I hope that now that you're moving me from the commission, you'll at least bring it back. If you don't, you have no reason to be upset for people like myself having no other recourse but to denounce you publicly through other media outlets where you have shut us out of a conversation we desperately attempted to have civically. Your actions have robbed us of enormous amounts of money, peace of mind, and your indifference is sickening. If I am to be punished for exercising my constitutional rights which supersede lesser than state and local laws, then at least remove me legitimately and by the rules and not by falsifying documents and misleading the public. I remind the council that you respond to we the people and that our civil rights are never waivable. To cite the Brown Act, the people of the state do not yield their sovereignty to agencies that serve them. The people, in delegating authority, do not give their public servants the right to decide what is good for them to know, for the people to know.
Mr. Benuelos, you have
Good
20
for
seconds
them
left.
to not know.
Mayor, he's disconnected.
Okay. You said there was 2 comments at that time, right? So,
Yes, there's one more oral comment for general topic.
right.
Hello?
Good evening. This is the City of Paramount calling for Jose De Leon.
Yes.
Hi, Mr. De Leon. We're calling regarding your request for public comment at the City Council meeting. You're being broadcast live right now to the City Council, and we'll give you 3 minutes, which will start now.
Okay. Hello. Good evening. Actually, afternoon. Listening the previous comment doesn't surprise me. The way the city has been dry for many years. My question is, do the city council assist to any classes or trainings of things that they can do and things that they cannot do? I guess not. The main reason of my call is to complain. I've been requesting public records on March 24. I did request some public records. Until today, I'm still waiting for. Previous to that requestment, I did one on March 5. No answer. On April 5th, I got an email telling me that they were going to send me the information later. As far as I know, the state has 10 days to answer any public request. Or what the city is hiding from. I just request some records for the new well that is located on Garfield. Until today, I'm still waiting for it. Surprised me. Even now, I can check, I can Google, and I can find out what the president of Mexico ate yesterday. And you guys here don't provide that information, and it's a public information anyone can have access to. What are you guys hiding? There is nothing wrong with any resident requesting public records. It should be open to anyone. So,
Mr. De Leon, you have 20 seconds left.
please, send me that information, please. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Mayor,
is that it?
almost, may
Absolutely,
just
Councilmember Linares.
suggest if our city clerk could just clarify
I know there were some misstatements made there about how long to respond to public records requests and when notification comes in. And if you could just clarify for the public how that process works, and because I know that Mr. De Leon's requests are already in progress, but it's not quite as he understands it. So maybe you could do some clarification?
Thank you, Councilmember Lemons. Yes, I'd be happy to clarify. Mr. De Leon is correct. We did receive 2 public records requests from him earlier this month and one last month. And those records requests are in process currently. And as he stated, the city has 10 days to respond is not entirely accurate. The city has 10 days to advise the requester if there are records that are responsive to his request. And the city has provided that response, that there are responsive records. However, due to the voluminous nature of the records requested, it will take additional time for staff to prepare and review each of those individual records, and that is what we are in the process of doing currently. I'd be happy to provide any further clarification if you'd
No,
like.
so just once again, within 10 days, you have to notify him that there are records available, and you will begin to gather those records for him. And then you have to be given a reasonable amount of time, depending upon the volume of records that are asked for.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
And actually, Councilmember Lemons, I'm going to piggyback on your question. I think, too, I'm going to talk a little bit about our ethics and our trainings for commissioners. John, I don't know if you want to take that question or how we direct it to Heidi, but
Mr. Kavanaugh handles the ethics training, so he can kind of pick it up there.
Yeah, well, we do have ethics training, but because of the pandemic,
Correct.
we don't have everybody presently to do it. So the ethics training is available online, and I think probably a lot of you have taken that course online. Once you do that, you're certified and you see the certification. And once the things start open up again, we will also make available having members of the council and the commission have in-house training. But we've done that for a long period of time, as you know, and even under a city manager, he's even had department heads be part of this. So there's been extensive legal ethics training, but because of the COVID and the pandemic, the online process has been available. So there's been no short circuiting of the ethics training. And as you know, Madam Mayor, you as the council also passed the Code of Conduct
Correct.
Just recently, which is in addition to the rules of decorum, which outlines and obligates all commissioners and the city council to conform to a course of ethical conduct. So that was just passed recently.
Absolutely.
And if
And
I
that-
may add, each of the department heads were given that code of conduct to give to each of their commissioners. So to make sure that each commission received the code of conduct as well as the rules of decorum.
That's what I was going to ask. So they got copies of all
They
of that.
did.
And then I thought that when I was mayor this past year, you reported to me too, you had met with each one of them?
Yes.
Yeah, so you met individually with each new commissioner to explain the process to them and to have them ask any questions they might have.
Each commissioner met with their department head that runs the commission.
Okay.
Exactly. So.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you guys for
Thanks.
clarification on that.
Mhm.
Appreciate that. All right. Are we ready to move on to consent calendar?
Yes, I will move it.
All right. I got a motion by Lemons. Can I get a second, please?
Second, Aguayo.
A motion by Lemons, second by Aguayo. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo,
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cuellar Stallings,
Yes.
Mayor Olmos.
Yes. All right, we'll move on to old business. We have a consideration of the review of future community garden development options, and I think you said we do have a speaker on this as well, correct?
We do not have a speaker, an outside speaker. We do have our in-house speaker, our
No,
planning
no.
director.
No, there is.
We have a speaker
Oh,
wanting
I'm
to
sorry. I
address
thought you
the
meant
item.
a guest speaker.
No.
My bad. I'm sorry. I thought you meant somebody coming to the
I had
podium
it
or
circled,
something.
John, read prepared.
Yes, indeed. We do have public comment on this one. Yes, indeed, Madam Mayor. Sorry about that. Yes, this is a report back to the council on community gardens. You may recall that the council gave us direction to find alternatives to which we can expand our community garden program. We currently have one garden in town, in the northwest end of town. So we have scoured the city for potential available properties to expand this community garden. This was not an easy task. We had many things that we needed to analyze. We explored several options and costs, and we now have a recommendation for your consideration. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Johnson, our Community Services and Recreation Director, who will handle the item.
John.
Dave.
Madam Mayor and council members. So as John mentioned, you asked that we come back with a more kind of comprehensive analysis as to what our options are regarding community gardens, and I think we've done that. Before starting this, we wanted to see what our surrounding cities were doing themselves. And surprisingly, it was only Long Beach and Lakewood that actually had public gardens, either leased by the city or property owned by the city that they allowed to be gardened. These other cities may have gardens, but they're then operated by nonprofits or private entities. Long Beach actually has an extensive list of gardens, most of them operated by nonprofits or owned by nonprofits. But from that survey, in contact with Long Beach and Lakewood, we did determine that a typical garden plot is anywhere between 100 and 150 square feet. And they do only allocate one plot per family. So then in comparison to what we currently have at our existing Orange Cortland Garden, we do have 56 plots, but we do allow the gardeners to lease 2 plots. So we only effectively have 28 gardeners. We do currently have a wait list. It consists of 14 people. The oldest person on that list registered to be on the wait list in February of 2020. So the wait list is not that old. In the last 5 years, we have moved most of that wait list that currently existed. Now, our plots are about 210 square feet. Because they can do 2 plots, they are gardening 420 square feet. So in comparison to what we see with these 2 other cities that we know have public gardens, we are very large. So that is something that we do probably need to consider. So our current garden opportunities exist at our remaining Orange Cortland Community Garden. We have home gardening opportunities. Certainly, you can garden in your backyard if you have a backyard. Our planning department has developed rules for gardening in the front yard. And we still have the Star Student Garden, which is over at Progress Park. The council did ask if we could look into opportunities to make that garden more broadly usable to the public. The only way to actually do that would be to purchase the garden back, essentially. So all the ACES funds that went into building that garden would have to be paid back if we were to open it up to general use. It still is a viable garden for the students. Again, it's not a large garden space, and it's built for the students. So effectively, it can be used by all the students in the STAR program. We currently have Girl Scouts gardening there. Because the Girl Scouts are part of a program that is taught in STAR, we think we can be able to safely extend the use of that garden to the Girl Scouts beyond August to September because they are kind of effectively part of the program that we have at STAR, because they do come in and teach about Girl Scouts. Now, when we go out looking for a garden space, there's a bunch of things that we would need to look for to make it a viable site. It needs to be large enough that you can actually have adequate number of garden spots there. The site itself, you would want to look for a site that is not an industrial manufacturing site for fear of contaminated soil issues and the large expense that would come with that for remediation. The soil itself, we would want to make sure it's an appropriate soil for gardening. For the most part, Paramount, all our soil is very adequate for gardening. We don't have a lot of clay soil. Development, we want to pick a spot that is not better suited to a residential or commercial or manufacturing development. It can be used otherwise. The site needs to have exposure, meaning they need to have adequate amount of sun throughout the day for proper gardening. It needs water. It needs potable water, not reclaimed water. So we need a site that has easy access to potable water. It needs access for maintenance vehicles to be able to get in there and do various maintenance requirements related to a garden. And then parking. We need some parking at a site, any garden site, so gardeners have a chance to park there and not cause any other parking issues for where they're located. So with that said, as John mentioned, we got a list from our planning department of known vacant lots. We scoured through that and analyzed those. We drove around the city and we got on Google Maps and went hunting for vacant lots. This is what we came up with. There's 9 sites that we think are possibilities, but what I'm going to do is walk you through why they're not viable opportunities. That being said, though, we do find that the garden possibility at the Edison property on Rosecrans is the most optimal site with the best opportunity to make a viable garden out of it. The next one would be All-American Park. We have, again, identified a very small portion of All-American Park that really isn't integrated well into the larger park. That is also a possibility. So as you walk through these, this is the one that we think is the most viable option. It is the SCE property off of Rosecrans. Now what I showed to the left is not the entire lot. I'm just showing a portion of it. It is a very large lot. There's a lot that we can do here. We have enough space to construct parking. We can do all kinds of plots here. There's a possibility to do a lot of things here that makes this probably the best site. Now, there is a lease issue. We'd have to lease the property from Edison. We would hope that they would give us because it's for a public use, we would hope that they would give us this property for a lease amount very similar to what they give us for Salud Park, which is very reasonable. Right now, it's about $5,000 plus a year, which is a very reasonable lease. We would hope that that would be the case here, but we cannot guarantee that until we enter negotiations. Now, there is another SE property on Orange and Cortland. So this is north of our current Orange Cortland garden site. It is adjacent to the horse stables and to a residential neighborhood. This is a viable site, except here's the problem. The neighborhood would have to be surveyed because what they have now is a very pastoral view from their neighborhood looking into this large setback and then the horse property. So it's very likely that that pastoral view would be disturbed and disrupted by gardens there. So that would be something we would have to consider with that neighborhood. Now this is and again, it's not really a vacant lot. It's part of All-American Park, but it's that little piece you see to the left. It's bordered in red. It is really kind of a separated piece of the park. It's not integrated into the park, but it's a viable site because we do have access to water here. We do have a parking lot that's part of the park. It would be a very small garden spot, and so we'd have to look at more non-traditional. We wouldn't probably build plots, but we would do plotting bags or vertical gardening here and give people an opportunity in a very small space to garden something. We'd probably have to remove 2 trees. And again, it doesn't have the optimal amount of sunlight because there is a wall there that separates it from Somerset Ranch. But again, there would be still enough sun that you would have gardening opportunities for a variety of vegetables and other items. This is currently a vacant lot that is a pocket park. It's on Somerset in Colorado. Problem here would be, again, with any private property, if we lease it and they then turn around years later, a couple years later, whatever it might be, they will still be looking to sell this property. So we would be in a situation where we could start gardeners and then all of a sudden lose the property. So that's going to be a problem with any private lot that we look at. And again, it's on Somerset. This is also more conducive probably to a commercial development. This is a property on Garfield on our border with Southgate. It is actually owned by Amapola. And again, it's also more conducive to a commercial development. And again, you would have issues with if they ever decided to sell the property, we would then have to boot the gardeners out. And then this one is near here, City Hall. It's on Vermont, a former industrial site. So that's a problem. We don't know what soil issues might be there. And again, it is better suited to a development that is commercial or manufacturing oriented. There's a large vacant lot on Alondra Boulevard, again, a private property next to Safeway. And problem again here, it's a private property. We've contacted them in the past with no response. And again, better suited to a commercial development. And then we found a residential private property, which I always see when we go by on the Christmas train. This also would be a similar problem with any private property. It could turn over really quickly and we would lose access to it. And again, it's deep into a residential property, again, better suited to hopefully a future residential development. And then this last one, there's a vacant lot off of Century Boulevard and Industrial Avenue, again on our border with Southgate. This one would be affected by the oncoming West Santa Ana Branch rail line. So this property will be affected by that, and so it we lose that one as well. So in looking at all three options, the SE property is the most viable. We will have to deal with a lease and construction costs, obviously, to build those gardens. The Orange Cortland, the new site, the new Orange Cortland, would require a survey to make sure to be okay with that neighborhood. So again, looking at the SE properties, the one off Crowscrans has the least amount of issues and is best suited to a future garden. In terms of private property, again, many of them are in manufacturing zones. We have issues that they should be developed into residential or commercial manufacturing sites. And again, you'd have the issue with losing the lease. And then city parks, it's just really hard to take a portion of a city park. We are a park poor community, so taking any part of a park is very difficult. We don't have enough space for our residents, so that's why we attach that little piece off All-American, because again, it is kind of an unused piece. But for the most part, you look at our parks, there's not unused pieces. That's kind of a rarity. So our recommendations would be to the council would be to pursue a lease with Southern California Edison for the Rosecrans site. Again, it provides an enormously large garden space, which would be amazing. It has enough space for us to construct parking and enough space that we can build dedicated lots. I mean, we could build sections that would be for senior citizens. They would be raised and have easier access for them, people with disabilities. There's a lot of opportunities here that I think would be wonderful to pursue. The Orange Cortland site, which is our current site, where we have a garden, what we'd propose is a phase-in one-plot policy. So we would, over the next 2 to 3 years, slowly phase in and get them down to one plot size. So they would have still 210 square feet to garden. Now, and honestly, this actually makes a lot of sense. And now that we're looking at it, most of our gardeners tend to be senior citizens. They do have trouble keeping up that large 420 square feet of space, and so they kind of get into trouble with our rules because they don't keep it actively gardened, and that's a problem. So I don't know that there will necessarily be a lot of pushback on this, but we would look to phase it in over 2 to 3 years. At All-American Park, again, this would allow us to create a small garden space that we'd have to employ kind of different gardening opportunities, again, like vertical gardening or gardening bags. That is what we are recommending, and this is our recommended action. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, do we have any questions or comments from council?
I have a quick one.
Sure.
David, but you are considering possibly making the plots smaller, like the city of Long Beach and the city of Lakewood.
Yeah, so at our current existing garden site, we would push forward with a one plot policy. So over the next 2 to 3 years, they would lose the ability to rent or lease 2 garden plots. So they would go down to a single plot of 210 square feet, which right now they're doing 420 square feet.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
No.
I actually have a comment. I think that definitely the phasing it into the one plot is a really a good idea, just based on, this trend, because it is a trend, and we have had members of the, community request, this type of thing. So I think it's a good idea. I think it was great to reach out to the Girl Scouts. But so that's really it. And I think it's a good idea to see what Edison says about that property.
I'll move approval of the item.
All right, I just had one comment. If I could just ask Dave one more question, sorry.
And we do have the one public comment. On
Oh,
this
that's
item.
right, correct. So and then we'll go to the comment. So Dave, let me ask you, so you just mentioned too that maybe possibly seniors, the lots are too big for them to grow. So is it possibly that maybe we can survey those seniors that currently have a plot to see if maybe they want to give up one? That way we can bring down the current waiting list to kind of get that started?
Absolutely. If anybody wants to voluntarily give up, that would happen right away.
Yeah,
And then the rest of them who don't want to give up, they would have 2 to 3 years to know
Correct.
that they're going to lose it eventually.
correct. But maybe we can get that going to get the process going. So it's, like you said, it's a 2-phase. Right now we're going to go ahead and see what plots we can make smaller, try to help out the waiting list, and then work on the Southern California Edison. Is that right? Yeah, the SCE. So it's like a 2-phase thing, but I'm thinking maybe we can move a little quicker, right? If we ask some of those seniors if they possibly want to give up.
We absolutely can.
Absolutely. Okay. All right. We do have a
Yes, we
comment?
do. Andrew?
Hello.
Hello, Alfredo Banuelos. Benuelos.
Jim.
Hi, we're calling regarding your request to speak on item number 2 of this evening's council meeting. You're being broadcast live, and your 3 minutes will start now.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So, thank you for that presentation. And so, I have a few questions regarding this issue. I mean, as my previous call alluded to, we seem to be going through very neglected parking issues here in the neighborhood, to which I'm very passionate about, considering the type of hardship that I've had to go through myself, not even considering some of the stories of my neighbors here in the area. It's a highly dense neighborhood. It's highly impacted, a lot of congestion. Even in the evening times, we can't find parking, much less the other way around. We can't find parking during the afternoon times, sometimes here, legal that is, and in the evening time, not even illegal, that is, not even on the red zones, in front of hydrants. I mean, we just do what we have to do. We get up early in the morning, every morning, to make sure that we don't get tickets, those of us who can or are able to. And so for a long time, I've been requesting and asking about the option of using this same land for use of this same neighborhood to the advantage of this neighborhood. Now, I myself could speculate for a lot of reasons as to why that has been ignored and why that's not a viable option for the city, but I would love to hear an explanation. And aside from that, I mean, if we could just, I'm not against the city gardens, like this is a great idea and all, but to just completely dismiss the neighborhood's needs and demands that I've put forward myself, along with other people, I'm sure, is just completely unfair. So I would like to hear why that's not an option, and if so, will part of the process also be getting public input from the people in this neighborhood? I know Mr. Johnson mentioned making available parking for those who do visit the site, but will that be enough? I've been to some of these gardens, and people do visit to purchase some of that produce, and so this, I fear, will lead to much more congestion in regards to parking and vehicles in the area, and I was wondering about that. Also, what are the limitations and what sort of considerations can be taken into account? Is it possible to go ahead that we can actually kill two birds with one stone and allow for a space that allows for several more parking spaces?
Mr. Benuelos, you have 20 seconds.
And while also achieving the goal of attaining this community garden. Like I said, I don't want to put one thing over the other, but this cannot be ignored. The situation here locally is urgent. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I can answer that question.
Absolutely.
The simple answer to that is Edison does not allow overnight parking on their property. About a year and a half ago, we had a conference call with the higher-ups at Edison and Senator Lena Gonzalez's office, the people from her Sacramento office, and they would not budge whatsoever. We were looking for parking solutions for our community, and we continue to still look for parking solutions for our community. And we had identified Edison properties as potential for parking, and Edison absolutely refused to budge on their policy of allowing overnight parking. Now, they do allow parking during the day and for temporary use, such as the post office, such as Salud Park, and such as what we're proposing for the community gardens use. So that property, if we do get it for community gardens, we would build in a parking lot as well, but it would only be for the use of that garden while the garden is in operation.
Because of Edison's policies.
Yeah, exactly.
Correct.
Edison will not allow overnight.
Correct. And I'd like to add to that too. I remember actually Councilmember Lemons and I were in Sacramento when we went to speak to the speaker about the same thing, trying to talk about opportunities of Southern California Edison and partnering with us on parking. I even remember us getting introduced to people from Southern California Edison and trying to lobby on behalf of the city of Paramount to help us with parking. So it is something that we are trying to push the issue. So, Mr. Benuelos, we are trying to do whatever we can for those parking issues. So thank you for your comment. All right. So, Councilmember Lemons, I think you had a motion on this one?
I second.
Approval for
Alright.
the Rosecrans site.
Okay, so we have a motion by Lemons and a second by Aguayo to direct staff to pursue a lease with Southern California Edison for community gardens, develop costs for design and construction of community gardens at the SCE property and All-American Park, include these costs in the proposed fiscal year 2022 budget, and to revise current gardening policies for the Orange Cortland Garden to restrict use to one garden plot per resident. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo.
Mayor, almost. The second was Councilmember Cuellar Stallings.
I
He
said,
seconded. Cuellar Stalling.
yeah, I said Lemons, Cuellar Stallings, didn't I?
No, you said Aguayo.
Oh, it's because I like your name today. All right, so it's going to be Lemons and Cuellar Stallings second, please. Can I get a roll call?
Councilmember Aguayo.
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cuellar Stallings.
Yes.
Mayor Olmos.
Yes. All right, we're moving on to oral report for commercial sign regulations.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Last year, when the council approved the new gas station and window electronic signs, there was an interest among y'all to have a full review of the city's sign regulations for our businesses. Now, there are several types of signs that we regulate for commercial establishments that you're about to see. So everything from window signs to electronic signs to monument signs. And we also regulate temporary signs like banners and feather flags that you see waving in the wind. These codes were adopted and amended over the years by the city council, and the goal was to bring about a clean, uniform look to our business district in hopes of attracting a vibrant customer base and also quality merchants to our retail establishments. And lately during COVID, however, we relaxed enforcement of these regulations to help our businesses survive through the pandemic. However, once the recovery is in full swing here in the next few months, and things start to resemble normalcy, we will look at slowly turning back on the spigot and start enforcing this area of our code for the sign enforcement. So with that, I'll turn it over to Planning Director, Mr. John Carver, who will walk us through this educational presentation. John?
Thank you, John, Madam Mayor, and council members. So as John mentioned, in November of 2020, the council approved a code amendment that allowed digital pricing on service station monument signs. And at that time, the council asked for a comprehensive presentation on sign regulations. So businesses do have a need to advertise. Retail and office businesses need signs to help customers, clients, and vendors locate the business. Cities establish sign regulations to prevent an over-proliferation of signs. Signs also have free speech protections under the First Amendment, and sign regulations must be content neutral. Here is some pictures from Paramount's past when excessive signs were allowed, and this is what we are trying to prevent through sign regulations.
Hey, why don't you pause there, John, back on the...
I know we were all like, oh.
I noticed that the council's pointing a lot to old Paramount here. These are great
Oh,
pictures when he
man.
brought these up during rehearsal. I was looking at them for a long time.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry.
I'm
Sorry.
excited. They were like, wow.
Yes, I remember all of this when I was little.
Okay. And here's a snippet from the Municipal Code in 1962. As you can see, related to signs, it's very short, and it's very liberal and very generous. So in the 1980s, the City Council revised commercial sign regulations to clean up the over-proliferation of signs and to make for a more attractive cityscape. At that time, pole signs were prohibited, and guidelines were established for banners and special event advertising. In 2020, the City Council adopted a comprehensive overhaul and update to sign regulations. The regulations allowed for monument signs on all properties. Feather flags and portable signs were allowed with a no-fee permit. A creative sign category was established, and the new guidelines required a contractor or a sign company to install a sign. And here is a pole sign, which these are no longer permitted, with the exception of our digital billboard that will be going up shortly along the 710 freeway. Other prohibited signs include cabinet or can signs, and you can see those in the red circle in the picture. Flat panel signs are prohibited. Roof-mounted signs and signs with obscenities are also prohibited. Looking now at wall-mounted signs, these are permitted. These are signs that have individual channel letters. They can have up to 2 rows of letters, and there are length and area maximums. Projecting signs are another sign type that are allowed. And you can see the 7-Eleven has a projecting sign in the red circle at the upper right. Monument signs are permitted. A monument sign can be located on a lot with 15,000 square feet or more, and those lots can have a sign up to 6 feet in height. With lots that have less than 15,000 square feet, monument signs are permitted, but they can only have a height of 4 feet. Monument signs must also have raised or routed letters. No flat panels are permitted. And here's a close-up on the left, the raised type of lettering, and on the right, that's the routed type of lettering. Pylon signs are another type of permitted sign. This type of sign can have a height of 20 feet, and these are allowed on properties that contain 2 acres or more. Creative signs were introduced in the 2012 overhaul of the sign code. These types of signs are approved by the Development Review Board, and you can see Iceland is a type of a creative sign that, that we have in Paramount. Portable signs are allowed on private property and can have a height of 4 feet. In this picture, you see a A-frame type of sign. These signs have to be removed when the business is closed overnight. Banners are approved through a no-fee permit. The permit is good for 1 year, and the permit can be renewed provided the banner is in good condition. A banner can display the name of a new business for 30 days, and after that, a permanent sign must be installed. 1 banner is allowed per building side, and there are size restrictions. Feather flags were introduced in 2012. A business must obtain a no-fee permit, and feather flags are allowed for 50 days per year. A business is allowed 1 feather flag unless it is on a corner, and then 2 flags are permitted. And businesses can have special events. A grand opening is allowed for 30 days, and other special event sales are allowed for 20 days per year. And there are a wide range of advertising types that are allowed for a special event. Looking at the sign approval process, a business owner or a sign contractor would bring or email plans to the planning department. A planner would review the proposal to make sure it meets code requirements. If corrections are necessary, those are provided to the applicant. A no-fee permit is required. And then if a sign is illuminated, or if it's a monument sign, or if it's a sign that's bolted to a wall, those do require building and safety approval. So in summary, our side guidelines are balanced and up to date, and they are flexible and creative. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any comments, questions, or discussions on this commercial sign regulations?
I have a comment.
Sure.
Great
Vice Mayor?
report.
Well, thank you.
Anything on this side? Thank you for the blast of the past on the pictures.
Yes,
That-
sure.
Yes.
That got you an
Absolutely.
A+ right there.
Yes.
All right, so this is oral report. No motion needed. We'll move on to new business.
Yes, Madam Mayor. We are seeking your approval on a contract for a home improvement project to a home that's located in the Sand Streets area. This contract is through the city's longtime residential rehabilitation program, and our planning director, Mr. John Carver, will handle this item. John?
Thank you, John. Madam Mayor and council members. This is an award of contract for housing rehabilitation construction services at 6506 San Luis Street, and this is through the Home Improvement Program. The Home Improvement Program is funded with federal home monies, and this program provides for repairs for owner-occupied single-family detached dwellings, and a homeowner must have a low to moderate income. For this project, the homeowner solicited 3 construction bids from a construction package that was prepared by the city's consultant, MDG Associates. And the Recommended contractor is VV&G Construction. This was the lowest qualified contractor. Improvements to be completed in this project include exterior paint on the house, a new water heater, and re-roofing the house. The city contributes 80% of the cost, up to $21,600, and the property owner contributes 20% of the construction cost. And here's a look at the property. Again, the improvements include painting the exterior of the home, re-roofing the house, and adding in a new water heater. And it's recommended that you award the contract for this project. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or discussion on this item?
We do have an emailed public comment for this item.
All right, we'll listen to that.
Thank you. The comment is from Paramount resident Marilyn Carcamo Hidalgo. And she says, what will determine eligibility for housing rehabilitation? What would be the main focus, and how does this help the city of Paramount? That concludes the comment. It's more of a question.
More of a question. All right.
John, you want to handle that answer?
Sure. Well, the qualification is based on the condition of the home for the program, and it helps the city of Paramount by improving a neighborhood. So those are, I think, answer the two questions.
Those are the two questions. That was it.
Yes, that was the only two questions, and that answered both of them.
Thank you, John. Thank you
Sure.
for answering that. All right, I'll entertain a motion on this.
So move.
Second, Aguayo.
So we have a motion by Cuellar Stallings, second by Aguayo. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo,
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons, Vice Mayor Cuellar Stallings,
Yes.
Mayor Olmos.
Yes. All right, next item, we have a receive and file for proposed park shelter and picnic area rental procedures.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. The following is a presentation on our proposed park shelter and picnic area rentals. Over the last couple of years, we've been experiencing some issues at our park shelters that really have an impact on other park patrons as they try to enjoy the park at the same time. We looked at areas of our current rental process that can be improved, and we've developed some changes to this process. And we hope that these proposed regulations will help to kind of curb some of the negative behavior we see at the parks or get complaints about. And it will then make the space enjoyable, we're hoping, for everybody who's trying to enjoy the park. So with that, I'll turn it over to Community Services and Recreation Director, Mr. Dave Johnson, to handle the item. Dave?
Thank you, John, Madam Mayor, and council members. So as background, we're talking mostly about Paramount Park. This is where our prime picnic areas are. That's where we have the majority of our picnic shelters. And again, this is where our community comes for birthday parties, baby showers, and a variety of family activities. And the emphasis is on it is intended for family-oriented activities. So we have a very reasonable pricing to make it affordable to our residents. There currently is a $50 deposit, and the fee is $10 per day, not per hour, but per day. They're able to rent two, and we'll get into that slide, but they're able to rent two shelters, and again, the charge is $10 a day for both shelters. So the amenities that we have at our shelters, they have barbecues, in fact, new ones that were approved in the budget in FY21, FY20, is it FY21? Yeah. Were actually installed, or going to be installed this week because now that our parks are reopening, those are going in. Our shade structures over the last few years have been renovated, so they're in good shape. And then you can actually get a jumper reservation attached to your shelter use. So there are ongoing improvements. Again, we continue to make improvements to our shelters themselves, the wood coverings. We are slowly in the process of replacing all these older metal picnic tables with concrete tables that are more more durable. And then also the trash cans are getting replaced. So when our larger gazebo area on the park currently has now all the new concrete trash cans and tables, so it's very nice. And then again, as the barbecues are going in, that's nice as well. So our current policy is this, and this is where it's creating some problems. We allow residents to permit a use of our shelters. So again, they can rent two shelters at Paramount Park. If the shelters are not permitted, they are open on a first come, first served basis, which means anybody, resident, non-resident, anybody can then use that shelter. And this is kind of where we're running into problems. So this is where we generally see park violations. For the most part, again, our residents use it and they use it in the most appropriate ways for family gatherings. What we generally see, and I'll bluntly say, is that outside groups tend to come to our park because of its low rates or low costs and availability of unpermitted shelters, that they come in there. We see car shows. Car shows themselves are not bad, but they tend to, what we've seen, at least the car shows that have been at the park, have had a lot of illegal parking, a lot of alcohol use, and a lot of excess number of people that are not allowed by our own code. You have loud music, and we've actually had people come to us, and we find out later that they used a false address. We had, in your report, you saw that we had somebody who actually used a Paramount business address that we did not initially catch. We have people who, from outside the city, use a Paramount resident as a means to get the permit. That's also has created problems. So when staff looked at this, we came up with 5 things that we thought we could do to mitigate these problems. First one was update the park codes, revise our park facility rental policy, reallocate how we permit the shelters, and zero tolerance registration is we're going to be more aware of and look at who is requesting the permit, make sure it is a Paramount address, and make sure they're not using a Paramount resident to gain access when they themselves are not a resident, and then look at our deposit and fee structure. So in regard to park codes, the City Council, thank you, did approve the new park codes in March of 2020. The purpose of these codes is to make it very clear what is allowed and not allowed. It also then provided public safety with the authority to cite, which we did not have prior. Examples of some of these updates that we did to the codes, car shows are allowed, but again, through a special permit only. You're limited to shelters at Paramount Park, so you cannot bring pop-ups and stick them anywhere on the park. Parties at other sites that don't have shelters are limited to the number, size, and type of pop-ups that are allowed. And again, no longer can you bring your own personal barbecue onto the park, which, we saw everything from tow behind barbecues to your home barbecue dragged across the grass onto a space. So those are no longer allowed. So we also revised our park facility rental agreement and made it very clear, hopefully much more clear than it was before, as what you can and cannot do. We are requiring the applicant to sign that form and have it with them the day of their event. So some of the key parts of this are, we're making it obviously really clear that you must be a resident, otherwise your permit will be void. You cannot have alcohol, that you cannot engage, you can't leave trash, because again, we will then hold part of your deposit. So any violations that then create a cost for us, we will hold part of your deposit. And then termination time. So our parks are open till 8 o'clock. You must vacate at that time or prior. And again, there's consequences for failure to do so. So our current shelter allocation is part of our problem. So it's kind of, it's a very odd allocation that we've done, to be honest. So if you take a look at the site, sites shelters 1, 2, and 3, you can rent 2 of those. So we've created a situation where we automatically created a one shelter that was unused and available for some other party to come in and use it. Same thing with 5, 6, and 7. And then we have this little oddity with shelter 4, which is all by itself. So in the current situation, we could have up to 200 people using these shelters. It typically doesn't happen. So, you get shelters 1 and 2, you're allowed to have 25 people per shelter, so 50 people total. In conversations with some folks that were using these sites, basically what they told us is that wasn't enough. You kind of want to have 2 shelters for people to sit and then another shelter to put your stuff. So that's why they were coming onto the park and putting pop-ups and a variety of things, which we no longer allow. So what we're proposing is to do something a little more logical, at least in my mind, a little more logical. We have 2 sections that are already in pods of 3, 1, 2, and 3, 5, 6, and 7. Those would be rented in those 3. So when you get a shelter rental, you get 1, 2, and 3, or you get 5, 6, and 7. And then 8A and 8B are very large already, so that works out fine. We would still limit it to 50 total. So you have 3 shelters. You're not going to be able to do 75 people. You can only do, and still 50. Because what we heard was that they want 1 shelter for stuff. 8A and B could probably accommodate more people, but at the current time, we're recommending keeping it at 50. And so again, what this effectively does is it reduces the number of people renting this that legally or appropriately can be on these shelters to going from 200 to 150. And then it eliminates those odd little shelters that can be left unused and then some outside party coming in and use it because it's not permitted. Now, Shelter 4 will come back at some point with an idea to maybe reimagine how that can be used, but that is an oddity and we would not permit that going forward. In terms of our zero tolerance, again, we are going to require clear identification that you are Paramount residents. So you need 2 forms of ID and some kind of utility bill, or it does. And again, it could be any kind of bill, a car note, anything that shows that you are the individual that actually has a Paramount address. In terms of non-resident issues, we will again do more due diligence to make sure that we're not getting false information. If we have an obvious sign that a Paramount resident has been asked by a non-resident to reserve it, we will then terminate that application because of that. And again, the whole goal here is to hopefully reduce the park violations by these outside users. In terms of the deposit and fee, we did survey our local cities. Now, when it says Paramount, resident, non-resident, both, that's a little bit misleading. These other cities either rent it to residents only or to resident and non-residents. We do allow our shelters to be used by residents, non-residents, but only residents can get a permit. So that's a little bit misleading there. Our deposit amount currently is $50. So if you look at the survey here, we're very low in terms of our deposit. And our shelter fee is also very low. The majority of them actually do it per hour, and a few of them do it like us by day. There is a fee. The finance department is doing a fee analysis right now. So that will be a recommendation of the fee will appear in the FY22 budget proposal. In terms of the shelter deposit, because this is a refundable fee, we are going to go ahead and increase that fee to $150 to make it more comparable to our surrounding cities. And again, this also, by increasing it, it also allows us to have more substantive consequences should they become violators of our policies. So the goal here really is simple, to make sure our park shelters are available to our residents for family functions. That, as John mentioned, that there is not that uncomfortableness going to the park and you've got these raging parties going on. And it makes it more acceptable to our park users. And again, goal is to reduce the number of permitted uses and non-resident uses and remove as many false applications as we can. And that concludes my report. This is our recommendation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments, council?
Great report. David.
All right, Dave, I just have one, please. How did you come up with the max attendance of 50, the number? And then how are you going to monitor attendance?
Well, our park soup staff will have to increase, the hours that they spend out there specifically on weekends looking for that. Again, it's not going to be a case where we're going to sit there and count heads.
Right.
It is very obvious when you know what 50 people looks like, and now there's 100. It is very clear, and that's when they'll then make us aware of that, that there's a park violation, and then if we need to bring in public safety, we will. What was the first part of the question? It was, how do we determine 50?
How did you come up with 50? I mean, how do you invite
The
50?
number of tables that are that can fit under that space, and the
Okay.
number of bodies that can fit at a table.
Okay. So each shelter is 50? Is that what I meant? Or if I rented 1, 2, and 3?
You rent 1, 2, and 3. You can have a party of 50 people, and spread them out any way you want in that space of 1, 2, and 3 shelters.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not Cliff. I'm renting 1, 2, and 3, but I only get 50 people for shelters 1, 2, and 3
No, you get 50 people in total.
in total
Yes,
for 3 shelters.
correct.
Okay. Yeah, I don't see how the number 50 is, I mean, we have a lot of family. I mean, how do you limit it to 50 people? Is there, I'm throwing it out there, is there a way that we could work with the number of 50?
So are you wanting to increase it because it's now inclusive of 3 shelters?
Well, I mean, yeah, if we could look at that. I mean, it's like if you're renting 3 spaces.
How many tables are in underneath each?
I'm going to
each
try to remember
shelter?
because that's what we did. We counted the number of tables and said, okay, X number of bodies can sit in these. And that's how we got that number. But again, what we heard was what they do is they use one of the shelters to just put all their food and their stuff.
I've seen that.
So,
That's correct. I've seen that
really,
happen.
they're probably physically going to occupy with bodies 2 shelters. And when we looked at it, we said, okay, about 25 people each shelter. That's how we're staying at 50. Now, if you'd like to, we can, again, you can look at shelters 8A and 8B and make them, because they are a larger shelter, and make that for more than 50 people.
Okay. So if I were to have a party at shelters 1, 2, and 3, 50 people within those 3, but what about the grass area? Because sometimes you have family that come and sit in chairs.
You can do that as long as you don't set up a pop-up.
Okay. Okay.
You can have an increasement of family
That
besides the 50.
correct. As I'm saying, you have more if you want to have them sit on the grass where
Well,
they're not literally sitting under the shelter is
Sure.
counted as
You
50.
can absolutely do it. As long as, again, the only prohibition is not having a pop-up at Paramount Park. You must use the shelters. Now, again, they can also attach a jumper, and 25 kids will be in the jumper, and the adults will be in the shelter.
Right.
We could look at, Mayor, almost if it's the council's pleasure, to look at 8A and 8B and expand
I think so.
the number of uses. I would want to, though, make sure that we get more seating there if we do expand the capacity for those two. Because currently, how many? Yeah, we would want to probably add a table if there's space.
Well, there's a lot more tables in 8A and 8B than you would get in shelters 1, 2, and 3.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
So
to make
that's
sure.
a good idea. I mean,
Can I actually say something? Actually, I think the issues we're thinking, and I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking about the Olmos family and the Guaya family. We have large families out there, so I think that's what we're thinking. Like, okay, well, how would families similar
Sure.
to ours, deal with the 50 people? Where do we cut it off? But we can totally see that. But yeah, maybe those larger shelters, seeing, what we can do, and even if it's just those, because I totally get, we have to take care of the parks. I mean, they're for our residents. So figuring out how to maybe have, was it shelter 8A and B, maybe increasing the seating.
I'm comfortable if the council's direction that we can increase the seating in that 1, 2. And again, like John said, I need to go back and count the number of tables. There's a lot more tables there
Sure.
in 8A and B than you see in the other shelters. I mean, it's probably very possible that could be something for a party of 100 people.
right. And that way it gives the residents an option. Well, how many people are you having? 50 to 100? Okay, let me offer you option 8A or 8B.
Yeah.
So they have an option to go
That's a
with.
good idea.
Now, throw that out there. There isn't a second option if council so desires. If we do come across a very large party of 100, even though they're somewhat physically separated, we could have a policy that allows all 6 shelters to be reserved for a very large party.
Mm.
They'd just be spread out. Can you go back to, Dave, the aerial that you had? Just so the council's clear on what you're saying. So what Dave is saying that, or correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, you would do pods 1 and 2 if you had a large party.
Yeah,
So you would basically
right.
take up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7.
You just have that physical separation.
Right.
That's the only problem, is that you're spread out like that.
That was my question. Are you allowed to rent all the shelters for one-day event?
We currently don't have that as a policy, but that, again, at council's direction could be an option as well, including expanding 8A and B to 100 guests.
David, I have a question now. 8A, 8B, is that closer to the
Center.
where the basketball?
No, it's actually further away. It's closest to the community center.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah, Dave, if you can look into those options, I said at this point I would like to have the residents have an option if they do have something larger that we can offer them a bigger spot.
Okay, we can do that.
So can I entertain a motion on this? With the that we're going
Increase?
back to look at to add 8A and 8B? Is that what we're looking for? Okay,
Yes.
to add some
Increase
accommodations.
capacity at 8A and B.
There
Yep.
you go.
So
I'll se-
second.
That was clear. So I got a motion by a motion by Lemons and a second by Quayre Stallings. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo,
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons, Vice Mayor Quayre Stallings,
Yes.
Mayor Olmos.
Yes. All right, next item is approval, appropriation of additional funds for communications professional services.
Yes, Madam Mayor, for the better part of 5 years now, we've used the services of a highly skilled communications consultant. This consultant has helped us in a number of ways at keeping the public informed about such things as our history, our procedures and policies, and any new programs that we developed, and even some of our older programs as well. And this is definitely in line with fulfilling one of our core values that the City Council adopted a couple of years ago, and that's effective, inclusive, and transparent public information and engagement. Due to our extensive use of our communication consultant during the pandemic, however, there is a need to authorize additional funds to get us through the current fiscal year, and that's what we would like to do tonight. So with that, I'll have our Assistant City Manager, Mr. Andrew Villalpando, walk you through the item. Andrew?
Thank you, John. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. That was pretty much actually the whole presentation. This is a request to adjust our FY21 budget to allow us just some additional funding for our city's public information consultant. Trepepi Smith, they've actually provided marketing and public affairs consulting services for the city since 2016. We originally contracted with Trepepi Smith to assist us with strengthening our communication strategies to help us better engage with the community. Of course, this is a long-term goal that the City Council has had to make sure that our community is receiving the right information and public information to the highest degree possible. The services have absolutely just proven to be very valuable, especially since we only have a very small communications team. We have one full-time employee and a part-time employee, and as you can imagine, our information, our public information, our public service announcements have just increased over the years. So they've been a key partner with us, and they've participated in a lot of projects with us over the years, which include they were responsible for developing our ParamountEnvironmental.org website. This includes regular updates of the webpage with information on the city's quarterly water testing program. They've produced content and videos for our PEP scholarship programs and Paramount Transit program. They developed our Paramount Alfresco campaign and marketing materials, our Fair Housing Association educational video for tenant rights. They've also developed our Explore Paramount Shop Local program marketing campaign. So as I mentioned, the resources are running pretty thin right now. With COVID-19, we've really been stretching to make sure we get the right information out to the public and our community, and Trepepi Smith has been there the entire time. Among the many efforts to help struggling businesses, for instance, to respond and recover from the COVID-19 pandemic, we've needed Trepepi Smith to help provide rapid public outreach efforts. To help achieve this, we utilized their services a little bit more than anticipated this current fiscal year. Just to give you an example, our Alfresco, Explore Paramount, and Fair Housing videos are all COVID-19 projects, and these were critical in helping our community respond and recover. Our city's current contract with Trepepi Smith is $39,500 per year, which is roughly what we spend on average over the last few years. So far in FY21, we're quickly approaching the $40,000 mark of the city manager's contract authorization limit pursuant to our municipal code, section 3.12.080. We do anticipate that we'll need additional as-needed services throughout the remainder of FY21, and as a result, we're requesting a one-time appropriation increase of $15,500 for communications professional services with Trepepi Smith, and it's recommended that the City Council approve these additional funding for an amount not to exceed $55,000 for the remainder of FY21. That concludes my report, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions from council? Discussion? No? I just have one question really quickly. So you said that the contract was renewed for 2 years per fiscal year with the option to renew for additional 1 year. So are we at our 2 year with the renewal at 1?
No. So the contract was recently renewed in December, and the first year concludes June 30th of this year. So that would be the final of the first year.
Okay.
The second year would start on January 1, but that would be for the contracted amount that's listed in the current contract, which is for $39,500.
Got it. Okay. And then 1 year terms after. Okay. Yeah. All right, guys, I'll entertain a motion on this, please.
Second, Councilmember Aguayo.
All right, we have a motion by Lemon, second by Aguayo. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo,
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons, Vice Mayor Claire Stallings,
Yes.
Mayor Olmos.
Yes. All right, moving on to item number 7.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
Madam Mayor. Well, as you know, we're always looking for ways to keep up our image as a sustainable city. We found another way: plant more trees. We want to do this through a tree planting project where we collaborate with a couple of agencies to accomplish this. And this project will also help maintain our Tree City USA status. So with that, I'll turn it over to our Public Works Director, Ms. Adriana Figueroa, who will handle the item.
Thank you, John. Madam Mayor and members of the City Council, as John indicated, the city is often looking for ways to grow our urban forest and was successful in partnering with the California Urban Forest Council and West Coast Arborist on what is called the Circle Grant that would allow us to plant approximately 70 to 100 15-gallon trees throughout the city. This is provided through a CAL FIRE Urban Forest and Community Grant Program titled Invest from the Ground Up campaign. The goal of this grant is to continue to expand tree coverage in urban environments. I should mention that this is not the first time we participate in this particular program. We have actually participated in 2 prior cycles, one in 2016 and the other in 2017. The current project will incorporate data from the city's Arbor Access Program, which provides the GPS locations and tree species located within the city. West Coast Arborist, who is the city's tree contractor for tree maintenance, will determine where there are open spaces and if those spaces meet the criteria for a new 15-gallon tree. Also, just as a side note, we are working closely with the Gateway Cities COG and the Tree People, which is a nonprofit organization, on a grant that they have received to put together what is called a tree canopy inventory. And that will likely happen in June or July of this year. And that can also be used in the selection for potential locations. Once the new location for the trees is determined, the city, along with the California Urban Forest Council and West Coast Arborist, will host a tree planting event on March 12, 2022, to coincide with a statewide effort to plant 2,000 trees in one day. We will also be able to provide an educational workshop on the importance of trees and, of course, how to properly plant a tree. As part of the tree grant, the city will agree to incorporate all of the new trees that are planted into its existing tree inventory on our Arbor Access database. And lastly, as I had indicated previously, the city will promote the tree planting and maintenance efforts through social media and by holding a tree planting community workshop weeks prior to the tree planting event. So with that, it is recommended that the City Council authorize the city to enter into an MOU with the California Urban Forest Council and West Coast Arborist for the Circle 4 Amplify the Urban Forest project and direct the Public Works Director to execute the MOU. That concludes my report, but I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Adriana. Do we have any questions or comments from council?
I have a question.
Sure.
Adriana, I participated in one of your tree programs, I think a couple years ago, or 3 years ago. I have 2 of your beautiful trees that were donated. So, but I did notice that the first year, the city would come by and water the trees and kind of help us maintain the trees. And we also went, like you mentioned, to a workshop, and they told us they donated all these big gallons, and we were supposed to put a gallon of water, but around the tree, not in the tree root. So, and it was very helpful, and there was quite a few community members that went, and I actually took my oldest granddaughter, and she learned about trees. So, but thank you. I'm glad this is coming back. My trees are doing beautifully, and I love this program. So, thank you for your report.
I think I have a picture of Councilmember Lemons planting a tree.
With you. But we made your husband do all the hard work.
That's right. All right, guys, I'll entertain a motion on this, please.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Lemons, a second by Clara Stallings to authorize the city to enter into Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, with the California Urban Forest Council and West Coast Arborist, Inc. for the Circle 4 Amplify the Urban Forest Project and direct the Public Works Director to execute the MOU. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo?
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cuellar Stallings?
Yes.
Mayor Olmos?
Yes. All right, moving along. And John, I'm going to stay consistent. Number 8, award of contract, replacement of air conditioning units at Progress Park Plaza and associated budget adjustments. City project number 9178.
There we go. And Ms. Figueroa will handle this item as well.
Thank
Adriana?
you, John. Madam Mayor and members of the council, during routine maintenance of the HVAC units at Progress Park Plaza, our contractors noticed that there were some structural deficiencies with the 2 AC units or conditioning units
that heat and cool the auditorium. Due to the extensive damage, the units are not repairable and need to be replaced completely. Bids were opened and examined on April 1st of this year for this project. 2 bids were received, and the apparent low bid was submitted by KLM HVAC and Refrigeration. I can't say that word. Refrigeration, I guess, in the amount of $34,000. The other bid was higher at a cost of $48,500. In order to appropriately allocate funds for this project, a budget adjustment in the amount of $34,000 will be included in the final CIP budget for fiscal year 21. With that, it is recommended that the City Council award the contract for the replacement of the air conditioning units at Progress Park Plaza to KLM HVAC and Refrigeration
There you go.
in the amount of $34,000, and authorize the mayor or her designee to execute the agreement and authorize a budget adjustment in the amount of $34,000. And that concludes my report. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may
Thank you,
have.
Adriana. So only 2 reports for you tonight, and then you're good?
Three.
3. Okay, we have one more. All right, you guys. Any questions or comments for Adriana?
I just have a comment, Madam Mayor, which is I know that before COVID hit and we were having events at the park, there were several times it would get really, really hot in there, and they would say that it was cranked down as low as it could get. So I think this is long overdue, and glad we're moving in that direction.
All right, I will entertain a motion.
I'll move the item.
Second, Councilmember Aguayo.
All right, so we have a motion by Lemons and a second by Aguayo. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo,
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Quera Stallings,
Yes.
Mayor Olmos.
Yes. All right. We're moving on to number 9, award of contract. Replacement of electrical vault at Spain Park and associated budget adjustment.
Ms. Figueroa?
Thank you, John. Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. We were approached by Southern California Edison, alerting the city of the deteriorating condition of the electrical vault at Spanny Park. Edison requested that the city replace the vault. It should be noted that although Edison owns the equipment inside the vault itself belongs to the city, and we are therefore responsible for its replacement. Bids were opened and examined on April 1st of this year for this project. 3 bids were received, with the apparent low bid submitted by CalWest Lighting Services in the amount of $28,000. The highest bid came in at $63,864. Given that the budgeted amount in the fiscal year 2021 approved budget for this project is $20,000, we will need to include an additional $8,000 in the final budget for this project to ensure its completion. With that, it is recommended that the City Council award the contract for the replacement of electrical vault at Spanny Park to CalWest Lighting Services in the amount of $28,000 and authorize the mayor or her designee to execute the agreement and authorize a budget adjustment in the amount of $8,000. And that concludes my report. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, council members, any questions or comments?
I'll move the item.
All right.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Lemons, second by Quera Stallings. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo,
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Quera Stallings,
Yes.
Mayor Olmos.
Yes. All right. At this time, we'll move on to item number 10, which is approval of appointment of city commissioners. And I think we do have a comment on this one, correct?
Yes, we do, Madam Mayor.
So do we want to listen to that first? Okay, it's a phone call.
Please leave.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, the caller is not picking up. the
Okay,
request.
we will go ahead and move on then. So at this time, I would like to go ahead and call out the appointment of the city commissioners. We will start with Planning Commission, which will be Jaime Abrego, Luis Batista, Ernie Esparza, George Gutierrez, and Gordon Weisenberg. Next, as our Public Works Commissioners, will be Dr. Linda Timmons, Gerardo Ruiz, Alvin Parks, Rosemary Vasquez, and Tony Warfield. Our Parks and Recreation Commission will be Alicia Anderson, Ardavan Davari, Charlene Landry, Elizabeth Madrigal, and Alejandro Maldonado. Public Safety Commission will be Marcelina Marcy Bridges, Annette Delgadillo, Russ Hansen, Rosemary Mendez, and Dora Sanchez. Serving our Senior Services Commission will be Virginia Chavez, Margarita Osuna, Elsa Padilla, Claudia Quinones, and Patricia Winecki. So with that said, may I have a motion to approve our appointments of our commissioners?
So moved.
Second.
So we have a motion by Cuellar Stallings and a second by Lemons to approve the appointments to the Planning, Public Works, Parks and Recreation, Public Safety, and Senior Services Commission as presented. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo,
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cuellar Stallings,
Yes.
Mayor Olmos.
Yes. All right, our final item is the approval of, we're going to move on to our mayor's appointments. All right. Give me a second to get there.
It wasn't in my agenda. Do you have
No.
one?
I do.
The back. The very last page.
Oh, it's on the back of the last
Right.
page.
Here we go. So, for the mayor's appointments, for California Contract Cities Association, representative will be Olmos, alternate would be Aguayo. California Joint Powers Insurance Authority, representative will be Cuellar Stallings, alternate Aguayo. Clean Power Alliance will be Cuellar Stallings, alternate Aguayo. County Sanitation District of LA County, Districts 1 and 2, rep will be Olmos, alternate Cuellar Stallings. Eco Rapid Transit, representative will be Guillen, alternate will be Aguayo. Gateway Cities COG Board of Directors, representative will be Cuellar Stallings, alternate Aguayo. Gateway Cities COG, representative Guillen, alternate Cuellar Stallings. Greater Los Angeles County Vector Control, Aguayo. League of California Cities, we have Olmos as representing, alternate Aguayo. LA County City Selection Committee, representative will be Olmos. Paramount Unified School District Liaisons, representatives will be Aguayo, and second representative will be Cuellar Stallings. Sister City Committee, Aguayo. Southeast Air Animal Control Authority, representative will be Lemons, alternate Cuellar Stallings. Southeast Los Angeles County Workforce Development Board, Policy Board will be Representative Lemons, alternate Olmos. Southeast Water Coalition, Representative Aguirre, alternate Cuellar Stallings. Southern California Associate of Governments, which is also known as SCAG, representative will be Guillen, alternate Aguayo. And last will be our Homelessness Ad Hoc Committee. The two representatives will be Lemons and Olmos. So with that said, may I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Lemons and a second by Cuellar Stallings to confirm the mayor's appointments as presented. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo,
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cuellar Stallings,
Yes.
Mayor Olmos.
Yes. All right, we will move on to comments, committee reports. Start with council members. I'll start with Councilmember Aguayo.
Okay, so I actually do have a few things. The first one is actually the Greater LA County Vector Control actually wanted me to remind you that this is Mosquito Awareness Week. Yeah, after so I mean, you can find tips on how to deal with these pests and stuff on any of their social media outlets. So that's definitely the first thing. The second thing is tomorrow Paramount Unified is holding a Pantry to Families event from 7:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. So if you or any of your neighbors are still in need of any type of food assistance, they are there for our students. And on Thursday, we actually have a really busy day. We do have our virtual neighborhood watch meeting at 6 p.m. So be sure to log on to that and get other friends and family residents involved in all of that. And Thursday, we actually have vaccine appointments. As of 5 o'clock p.m., there was still vaccine appointments available. And now they've opened up for anybody that's 16 and up. So that's it for me. Have a blessed night.
All right. Councilmember Lemons.
Thank you. I would just like to say that at today's Celico Workforce Investment Board, they announced that their plans are to go fully functional with the entire center where everybody can go and get the assistance they need in helping to improve their job skills or to find a job as of July. I think they're operating, they said right now at 50% capacity, and they're planning to be at 100% at that time. And thank you. That's all I have.
Vice Mayor Cuellar Stallings.
Well, I want to welcome Smoke and Fire aboard, and we went to the grand opening. It's great food, just like all our other restaurants. Greatly appreciate all their support. If you can go to Smoke and Fire or any of our other restaurants in our city, I know that they would greatly appreciate it. And also, what Councilmember Aguayo said, please let your neighbors, friends, family know about that we still have vaccinations. You know, invite your familia, your amigos, to toda la gente que ustedes conocen en la ciudad de Paramount. It would be greatly appreciated. And then take a look at the website, and then you'll be able to set up an appointment. And last, I received an email from Mayor Robert Garcia encouraging us, because there's quite a few residents in all the areas and the cities close by us that do want to volunteer with our immigrant children that are be coming to the Long Beach Convention Center. There is a website at the Long Beach City website. You can fill out an application, and they're asking for people in education, medical field, food services, and many others. So if you want to do a helping hand, it would greatly appreciate it, but you have to go through a process. And that's what I have for tonight. Everybody have a great night.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So I do have a couple comments too. Actually, my first comment is actually to the community tonight. You know, I think all of us up here have received those calls regarding the street takeovers, the donuts happening. But, you know, I think us really now is a time as a community is we have to really take control of the situation, you know, and what I mean by that is, you know, if you hear the noises happening, you can hear it, call the police. You know, pick up the phone, call the police, be proactive. You know, let's not assume that our neighbors are actually picking up the phone to make the call. Us ourselves have to take responsibility to help with the process. You know, we do have a task force under LA County Sheriff, you know, that's been handling these situations. So again, you know, I urge you, you know, to get involved, pick up the phone and make that call. So only us together can help stop and prevent, you know, these drivers from coming into our city and, you know, tearing up our streets. So please, let's all get together and help each other. And I, for the staff, you know, I know we used to have a banner on Paramount Boulevard that showed the fines. You know, I think we may have to get that back up again because it calmed down a little bit.
Yep.
And I think it's getting a little bit more busier. So maybe they kind of forgot what the fines are. If we can get that out back on social media, some flyers out in the community again, because again, it got really good and I think it's getting a little bit more busier at night.
Great.
Let's get the message out, Paramount, that we will not tolerate this activity in our city. Because it's, like I said, it's not Paramount, okay? Next thing is I'm going to be looking to my colleagues for some consensus for some items that I did mention last meeting. I would like staff to start researching or, you know, developing criteria to begin what we call our Mayor's Monthly, I don't have a title for it yet, but I know it's a monthly Mayor's Community Hero Award. Dave, we talked about that word, community hero. And again, this would be to recognize stakeholders in the community. So if I can get consensus from the council members on that, but I have one more item. And also, I know county guidelines permits us right now that we cannot have gatherings, but I'd also start looking into some opportunities to develop a coffee with council as well program, which again would give the opportunity for residents to come and have conversation with us. So again, if I can get a consensus from the council to have staff start researching that, I would greatly appreciate that.
So moved.
I personally don't have any objections to researching it. I think it's a really good idea. The only thing I would ask for in staff's research is to see if monthly is really feasible. That seems like a lot
Agree.
For a hero to come up. I mean, we really want it to mean something. We just don't want to hand them out. So I don't know that you can find somebody every single month. So with your expertise and having done this so many times in all of the different venues that we do recognize people, certainly if you think that's feasible, I have no objection to it. But I would just like it, because it's coming from the mayor, to be something, that really sets a high bar for the heroes that we recognize. And maybe it's every 3 months, maybe it's every other month, or if you certainly feel that you're going to have no trouble finding them, every month. But I think it's a great idea, Mayor.
Yeah, and I think too, council member, it's not. I think for Dave, it's also for you. You as a council member, if you feel that there's somebody in the community that needs to be recognized, that's for us, 5 to come to get together. Because I know there's a lot of nonprofits and residents, and that I think we all can pick out 4 or 5 that we can definitely recognize them for doing what they do. So this would be like our team effort to recognize those people.
Yeah, however the criteria works out that they
Correct.
feel it's doable, I think it's a great idea.
I appreciate that.
Okay, we'll
right.
come back with some research and some proposed criteria that would include how that person or that group gets recognized and what they get recognized for. But it would obviously be an interactive council, because this is definitely coming from the council. That's what they want. So we will report back.
Absolutely. Thank you. And my final remark was regarding the verdict today regarding George Floyd. And I think we all were watching that this afternoon. Everybody had their TVs on, and our former president Barack Obama came out and made this powerful comment today that just resonated with me. And he said, "Today a jury did the right thing, but true justice requires much more." So again, I just want to send my prayers to all the families who were affected by this decision today, and my prayers are with them. So with that said, John, do we have any comments from staff?
We do, Madam Mayor. We have just a few here. It was mentioned, you mentioned, Mayor, almost about the street racing, and we will definitely put the banner back up. But the city attorney and I were having a conversation yesterday, and there's been some really good headway on this. So the city attorney is talking about possibly doing a kind of like an overview of how it's going and what the successes are. So be expecting that in the next couple of months, maybe next month even. So that's on the horizon. We had some great news today given to us. We have another vaccination clinic that's coming to Paramount this weekend, and they are local providers. The first one is on Saturday, and it's provided by Clinica Medica Hispana, and that's from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. The next one is on Sunday, and that's this Sunday, from 8 to 4, and that is the Family Pharmacy. I think that's what they're called, Dave. The Family Pharmacy, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. And both of these clinics will be held at the Paramount Park Community Center. So definitely start.
Social media already?
I'm sorry.
It's already on our social media.
It will be. We just heard this afternoon. So LA County Health is coordinating this for the 2 facilities to have that. So that's great news. We heard. Currently, we're at 28% vaccination rate. We like it to go higher. We like to be in the 30s. So hopefully, and that was as of 2 weeks ago. The county website, they updated it every 2 weeks. So we're hoping that with this weekend and some other vaccination clinics, our numbers will go up. The third and final thing, Mayor, that I wanted to bring up was there has been discussion up here about the air monitors and what's the latest on those, whether or not they're coming back. I mentioned that we've been in contact with AQMD staff. We did have a meeting with them recently, and we're working with them on a plan to bring back the monitors and how the city would be involved with that. But before that goes into effect, a couple of board members and the CEO of AQMD will be at our May 4th council meeting to give a presentation to the council and the public about the air monitoring plan that AQMD instituted here in Paramount about 4 or 5 years ago. And with that, that concludes comments from staff, Mayor. Be happy to answer any questions.
Absolutely.
Make comment, question, whatever it is. I really think with the numbers that you just gave for what our vaccinations are, I'm going to be very surprised if they don't really go up, because that was with the restrictions of the 50 and over. And, you know, all of our data shows that we have a really young community.
I was thinking about that same
Yeah,
thing too.
because
Yeah.
I have made dozens and dozens and dozens of phone calls to people saying, did you get vaccinated? If not, I want to help you get on the list. And everybody I've spoken to is vaccinated.
Yeah.
I
yeah,
mean, probably at least 150 people.
Right.
And then have asked them, please pass it on to the relative. Let me know if you have an aunt, an uncle, a grandfather, anybody that's here in the city. But that just opened up. And so I think because we're such a young community and people have been so responsive so far, at least Paramount, please go out there, show off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right? That's
Get
right.
vaccinated.
Get vaccinated.
Absolutely.
Get vaccinated.
All right, so no more comments?
No,
All
ma'am.
right. Well, thank you, everybody, for this meeting tonight. We'll go ahead and adjourn till May 4th, 2021 at 6 p.m. Have a good night,
Thank you,
everyone.
Mayor.